Good afternoon and good evening, and thanks for stopping by. Our dedicated team will guide you through with the latest updates and theories at Starbase, Texas. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for future streams.
Hey everybody, my name is Zack Golden. Welcome to another Starbase Weekly live stream. Happy to be here with y'all this week. Got a lot of exciting stuff to cover as always. A bit of a dramatic week in terms of static fires test of Ship 35, which we will discuss here in just a minute. Before we do that, I will introduce our guest for today. We have Alex with us again. Alex, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and it should be a really good show. Yeah, that's all I got.
And we also have Todd with us as well. Todd, how's it going?
Doing great. Glad to be back again. This is going to be a good one. These pictures turned out great. Yeah, really excited to get into it.
Of course. And on questions and donations, we have Astro Joe with us this week.
Hey, Zach, always good to share a stream with you. We got episode 153. What is that, the 204th flight? But yeah, we got some interesting, awesome pictures to go through. Can't wait to dive into it with y'all.
And it looks like, I always pay attention to the chat at the start of the show. It looks like we do have a little bit of, I don't know if it's just me or if it's all of us that are a bit loud, so let me know, y'all, in the chat if it's just me. My mic is way down from where it's normally at, so I would turn it down more, but I think it'll kind of have the opposite effect. It's all of them. All right, yeah, Stephanie, if you could adjust all of them. Yeah, thanks everybody for bearing with us this week. We're kind of changing some stuff up on the production side, so getting back into the groove of things with having a new producer. So we appreciate y'all pointing things out in the chat and helps us solve it pretty quickly. Sometimes it's not necessarily that easy to do it ahead of time. There's just everybody in the chat saying all, you know, you guys can turn your volumes down as well, right? Okay. Well, while we're getting that lined out, I'll go ahead and get us started on the show. And I guess before we do that, just wanted to say sorry we had to push it to Sunday. Obviously, with the flyover being Friday, we normally do a show on Saturday. However, I needed a bit of a delay because I was pretty busy recording this past 7 days. So needed to basically finish that up. So glad we were able to push this off till today. And that actually worked out because there's going to be a lot for us to talk about. So Cool. I will go ahead and get us moved over to Massey's to start the show off. Cool. And it looks like everybody in the chat is saying that it's volume is getting a little bit better. So that's good to hear. All right. Well, this week at Massey's, we did have some drama, as I said before, and that was surrounding the static fire test of Ship 35. So I think I'll go ahead and show a little video of that really quick. Let's see here. Interstellar Gateway posted one. I did want to show the one from Starship Gazer because it was actually slow motion, but it is still currently unlisted, so we'll go with this one anyways. Yeah, I'll go ahead and play this, and I'm going to mute the audio, hopefully. There we go. Cool. So, yeah, this was supposed to be a long-duration test of Ship 35, assuming it was probably intended to be like a full 60 seconds. But I think it only got, I want to say, like 35 seconds in before it started having issues. So, y'all will see here coming up in the, obviously below the ship, you can actually see that first flash right there. So that, we believe, was one of the RVACs that actually separated the nozzle extension and probably had some damage maybe to the actual combustion chamber as well too. But you can see this little fire still ongoing down there for quite a while. This definitely was semi-shocking, but in my opinion, this is actually kind of a good thing in a way. I'm choosing how deep I want to get into this because I do have a 90-minute long episode about this coming out hopefully within the next few days. But in my opinion, I think this is probably a result of testing of a solution basically to the problems that they've had on the past two flights. So, you know, it's been a very long time. I'm trying to think of a time where we ever saw an actual engine rud during a static fire test. I think SN10 maybe was the last time we saw one, and it wasn't quite as explosive as this one. So outside of McGregor, we rarely see actual issues like this during testing, which in my opinion that's a sign that they're somewhat intentionally doing this. Like, obviously they didn't probably want the engine to explode. However, they're probably testing a solution to the issues that they've been having, and basically inducing certain conditions within the vehicle in order to basically recreate the situation that's happening in flight. So I think that this is, and you can actually see a bit of pulsing in the light a little bit before it actually cuts out. Before that engine fails. So that is another sign, in my opinion, of what they're actually doing here. I believe they're actually pulsing basically pulsing pressure into the tank in order to simulate the conditions that are basically happening in orbit. So it's a little bit vague, and I think that'll make more sense in a few days here. But either way, this is kind of a good sign, in my opinion, because it means that they are a little bit further with the solution than I think a lot of people may have expected them to be. At least I did. I think that after Flight 8, we kind of maybe expected that they were going to go straight into another launch rather quickly, but the fact that they've kind of taken their time to actually start implementing a solution instead of, relying on changes to the actual flight profile to get them to SECO is a really good thing. So Ship 35 after this moved back to the build site, assuming that at least that one RVAC needs to be swapped out. Hopefully there's no other damage. I imagine there's probably a good chance that there's actually damage to the false ceiling of the attic because of just where the nozzle extensions are mounted on the Raptors. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was damage to the skirt as well too, because the RVACs actually have braces that attach between the nozzle and the wall of the skirt. So if you lose the entire nozzle, I imagine that potentially could do some damage to the skirt. So yeah, hopefully that's not any damage that they can't recover from, because if not, then they're pretty much would have to be relying on Ship 36, which again isn't a bad thing. I think in light of not having an actual test article that you can do this with, you pretty much have no other choice but to do it with a vehicle that you're expecting to be a flight article. So, yeah, I think there's always a chance that potentially you're going to have issues where you create a problem with the actual vehicle that causes you to have to scrap the whole thing. But I think we'll find out pretty quick whether or not that's actually going to be necessary. I have a feeling it's not, but there is that chance. Alex, did you have anything you wanted to add on that situation?
Yeah, last night it looks like a new vacuum Raptor showed up in the dead of night, and I'm agreeing with Zach that for me, I think it was intentional that it run because you needed a control to actually verify that what you're fixing is actually what's causing the issue.
Yeah.
So allowing one to explode.
It's a bit interesting that they would need an RVAC delivered just for that purpose. Like I would have to imagine there's several of them in the actual Raptor storage. So that's a little bit interesting to me to have an emergency delivery like that.
My understanding is it seems like a lot of the Raptors show up vacuum Raptors show up just in time.
But yeah, I believe all 345 showed up like just prior to them being installed.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, when you see that tour from Everyday Astronaut, were those all sea level engines? Now that I think about it, were there any RVACs in there?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think there were, actually. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty large, so it makes sense that maybe they don't necessarily want them taking up as much space as they require, or the assembly line for RVACs is nowhere near as fast as for sea level engines. Difficult to say on that. I imagine if it showed up that quickly, they probably just have a whole bunch of them sitting around at McGregor. So, yeah, good sign though. I think we may end up seeing another static fire of Ship 35. I was actually looking through some of these images trying to see if we could see any actual debris. I don't think, without having like some closer images on the Mexico side of things, it's a little difficult to see. But there were some angles specifically from Starship Gazer that showed some debris actually leaving the trench. So don't know if that ended up in the river or if it actually made it all the way across. A little difficult to say. But the good news is, I guess, the trench kind of seems fine. One thing I was worried about, with having an actual, whether it's just the nozzle extension or potentially the full combustion chamber being ejected from the vehicle. And Alex, you may be able to answer this. I do wonder if that happened, if the water deluge system is strong enough to prevent it from impacting. Like, would the water just lift it up out of the trench, or would it hit the flame bucket first and then get pushed out by the exhaust plume?
It should hit the bucket first, since it's getting driven down by the other 5 plumes. But those pipes are pretty rugged.
You think they're rugged enough for 1-ton engine to impact it?
Yeah. I mean, I think you can get them up to 750 C before they start losing some of their strength.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, the fact that they have the trench covered right now, in my opinion, is also a good sign that there's probably not damage to that, or else they would probably have been getting to work very quickly, opening this up to actually get down there and repair anything that needed to be repaired. So, yeah, maybe that's a good sign.
And if it was just a extension, that's fairly delicate. So right. I don't think.
Yeah, good point. Let's see. What else do we have at Massey's this week? So we're going to have some questions about Ship 35 in a second, but we'll get to that. The test stand. Which one, actually? Do you want to talk about this one first?
Yeah, I mean, this one where it looks like a positive development where both QDs look like they're opposite center line. instead of being asymmetrical, which it was sort of looking like for a while.
And you're just basing that off of the engine positions?
And the platform where you're that that section was labeled Z plus or Z minus.
Okay.
Yeah. So they essentially just
Good
rotated it. Yeah, it's kind of hard to fake. So, and the center ring, it looks like, stayed the same from the previous, and it's only the inner ring or the middle rings. It looks like they was shifted in relation to the block one.
Right. This is a lot less. I mean, this doesn't seem as beefy as the other one. I'm not sure if maybe they're just not done adding things onto this, but the actual ring itself doesn't seem anywhere near as structurally intense as the other one.
The load path is different. The big tank, I think the big circular mounts where they're the eye holes. No, the along the outer edge. Yeah, those are carrying the most of the load, as opposed to the previous one where they're using the upper level. So I think on this generation stand, the upper walkway is just going to be that.
Just the walkway.
Yeah, because this is very. Go on.
Are you thinking that these will be the actual clamps mounted to these, or will the clamps be in between?
The clamps should be on those, and the yeah, and they're probably not just like the previous one. They're not going to have the outer rings actuators.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense because I mean you've kind of already done structural verification testing on the ring of the aft section. So I guess you're mostly just once you had that done the first time, you kind of don't really necessarily need to retest it. However, doing the actual thrust puck itself is probably always important. So yeah, I guess this is just primarily for that thrust puck. Looks like they still got a ways to go, and that's actually not surprising because it's probably keeping up with the same pace as when we should expect the first test article to come out for this. So I don't know if we would see an actual test article on this or if it would be the first V3 booster that we see on this stand. But we are still expecting, obviously, the first that test article to come out eventually. I think I predicted last week that we probably would have saw it by now, but it still has not made its way out here. So they're still doing lots of preparations on the actual structural test stand. I don't know if they've actually changed anything. Alex, you've probably had more time to look at this week than I have.
They started adding the clamps on the left side of the ring. They're very similar to the ones we saw in the stand coming out of Star Factory, or going to Star Factory, but from a few weeks ago. I think that might be.
Yeah, so you can kind of see them right here, right?
Yeah.
Little latch.
Yes.
Yeah, these are interesting. I wonder how close they are to. I'm guessing they're probably very similar, if not identical, to what's going to be on the actual hold down arms for the Pad B launch mount.
That's what it's looking very much the exact same design.
Yeah.
Where you just have where it's being held down from what's the upper, the little arms that fold in.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder, given that they have 20 of these, if there's a possibility, depending on how they're mounted on here, once they finish that test, they pull these off and put them on the launch mount. A lot of these, most of this stuff actually comes from McGregor. So anything related to aft sections of the booster, as far as QDs or the actual hold down clamps, those all get shipped from McGregor. So I do believe that, they'll probably have a second set of these coming soon for that launch mount. Then they're also going to need a third set for the testing or the transport stand as well. But yeah, we should probably see more of these arrive soon for that launch mount, given that it's currently looking like it should be rolling out within the next 2 days, right? Is it tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday?
Monday night, Tuesday morning. So yeah,
We'll get to that here in a second. I have a bad feeling that they're going to be doing that at night.
Oh, guaranteed.
Yeah, kind of sad though. Let's see. Anything else at Massey's that we should touch on really quick?
That's pretty much it right now. They still haven't. They started plumbing for the new tanks, but nothing.
Oh, right. And they actually started running plumbing over to the new QD areas. Hold on. Sorry, I'm trying to grab a good angle of that. It's always difficult trying to find. Yeah, so you can see right here, they had previously had these pipes running over to the QD for the V2 boosters. And now you can see the first pipe starting to turn down in this direction. So we should probably see the first QDs for these arrive soon as well. I do think there's a slight chance that part of that stuff is already out here. It's just one of those things that until they install it, we're like, oh, okay, that's what that was the whole time. But there have been some interesting deliveries this week. I'm not sure if we'll see all of them in this flyover. I think some of them came immediately after this flyover ended, but we will touch on some of that stuff when we get to Sanchez as well. In the meantime, do we have any questions related to the Ship 35 static fire and Massey's?
I actually don't have any questions related to the Ship 35 static fire or Massey's, but I got a bunch of donations I'd like to announce.
Cool.
I want to thank David for becoming an RGV Flight Supporter member, Daniel Hogben for gifting 5 memberships, Callistia Lee for gifting 5 memberships, Yap Kuipers gifting 5 memberships, and Indian Star gifting 5 memberships. Also want to thank James Wilson for a $20 super chat. Says, memberships are great, but here's some fuel money. Much appreciated on that. And that's all I got.
All right. Cool. Well, we'll go ahead and move on. Alex, was there anything at the port that we should probably talk about this week? I don't think there was.
No, there wasn't. The last vertical tank is still missing.
Okay.
So.
Cool. Well, we'll go ahead and work our way up to Sanchez. First, we'll just take a little quick look at the new housing area that's they're starting to lay out the tiny homes over here. So not a lot to really talk about with that, but definitely some good progress. We also do have the storage area that comes after that. Again, not much to really discuss here, but if you guys want to look at some of this stuff closer and you are one of those folks who just got gifted a membership, then make sure to take advantage of that and download the images from this week, and you can go through all of this stuff. On that note, we'll probably glance through the Rio West development quickly and not really spend too much time here, but they are, of course, as always, making progress. Alex, did you want to talk about the rec center at all?
No, it looks like they're moved where they're building the rec center to here. Event Dudes found some of the documentation on this.
So is the shopping center still going to be over here or no?
It's unclear. The description of this strictly sounded like a rec center rather than a combo.
Yeah, it seems like the plans for this place have changed dramatically from what they originally expected to be.
Yeah.
But there is another area over to the right over here that I imagine, I'm not sure if they own any of this over here yet, but if they don't, I imagine they're probably trying to gain access to it. But I mean, it would be weird to have the shopping center at the end of the neighborhood instead of at the front of it, I think.
Yeah. I know they have access to more of it since they've been extending the roads right of frame.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, it looks like they're preparing to extend this soon, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, they have the curbs all set up.
Right.
To me,
cool.
it
Sorry,
just
go
seems crazy that the shopping center's being missed. I'm really hoping to see it somewhere soon because the area really needs it, especially now with their new incorporation. They need a market in that area, something for all the residents. So I hope to see something soon pop up somewhere in some of the listings and the paperwork that they have to file.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the only place to really put it, because you can't. I don't think they're going to build into this area right here. So the only place to put it would be down on this side. So yeah, I imagine if we keep hitting refresh on that website, we'll probably see some permits for that soon, with some updated designs for that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If the apartment they're building at the launch or the build site looks like it has shops on the bottom, so I'm wondering if maybe they're incorporating it into that instead.
That would suck, because especially for these people, they got to go all the way over there for that. I mean, I guess one way or another, half of the residents have to go to either side. So, yeah, putting it in the build site does make sense though, because if people are at work and they want to just walk over there, that's probably more convenient than having to actually drive all the way over to the other site. So, cool. Well, we are now at the Sanchez site, where the launch mount is being prepared for a rollout this week. So during this image, they were removing a lot of the scaffolding from the outside. They, as of now, do have SPMTs sitting under this. NASA Spaceflight actually has a really awesome angle of this, considering the, I believe initially there was a fence up here somewhere. I can't remember where it was. I want to say it was like right here.
Exactly.
And that fence, yeah, the fence was blocking a lot of the view that we had of this, and that's now gone. I'm guessing they had to remove it in order to back the SPMTs under here. But yeah, now there's a very clear view of this, which is really awesome, just being able to see all the work they're doing, which we'll kind of discuss here shortly. The right now, though, like I said, it's preparing to move. It seems like they already have the scaffolding in place, which I'm starting to think the scaffolding will stay here when they lift it. What do you think, Alex?
I think everything is going to stay more or less as is, because they've been actively this week welding on the attachment points for all the scaffolding, and we can't see any of the support with the new views of any of the center scaffolding.
Right. So do you? I mean, it's almost like. I mean, how do you think they did this all the way across like that?
Some large trusses that they have for like when you have scaffolding going across a driveway at a parking structure, and that's yeah, they have some specialty.
You know, I was really thinking initially that they were going to finish installing the arms before they move this, but it seems like they've only got 4 in here so far. I don't know if they've done any more since this flyover was taken, but I imagine they're potentially not wanting to do that for weight limits on those cranes. And I did see a post from Ryan Hansen Space this morning. He finally was able to put an estimate on the weight of these arms, and it was just under 10 tons for each arm once they're fully outfitted with the clamps and actuators. So I think right now in their current state, he was expecting they're probably somewhere around 9.5 tons. So that's extremely heavy. So I guess, just having 4 of these in here, you're basically adding close to 40 tons to the table. And we're expecting this is already somewhere approaching, if not already exceeding 1,000 tons. So yeah, definitely a hefty structure. And I'm really excited to see this finally move. Like I said, it is a bit unfortunate that it appears that it will more than likely happen at night, but that does make sense considering it's not exactly going to be a fast trip. They are, for the first time ever, we've seen use 3 sets of SPMTs for this. So that will be a very wide load coming down the road. And this thing is just so large. Like when you see, if you have a chance to look at the NASA spaceflight live view of this, and you see all the workers down there, I mean, you can kind of get a idea of how big it is from the aerial view just by looking at these guys on the side. But I think the side angle view from the ground really puts it into perspective that this is basically a steel apartment complex moving down the road when it's transported. So very, very large structure. Another thing that we've been seeing this week, and I think you can just barely see one of them from here, the lifting eyes that were on the outer walls of the launch mount, they've started to cut them off. I think in this flyover, this is probably the last one remaining.
I think it was. They've been just taught. There's one
there's
on
one right here.
Okay.
But they have been cutting those off, so it is a bit interesting trying to figure out how exactly they're going to lift it, because we don't currently see any place for them to attach the rigging to. Do you have any thoughts on that, Alex?
None. Just thankfully it's easy to weld to steel, because there's 4 corners, especially in the lower level. It's the largest steel plate they have on this entire assembly.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have made sense if they would have lifted it from those corners, but
Yeah.
and I don't think the pancake deck would hold the load, just because when the previous the bidet, they had the lifting frame welded to it.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a good idea to lift it by this at all.
Yeah.
Very important part of the structure. I think lifting it from somewhere else in the superstructure, whether that's I don't even know, especially with these manifolds on here, like any rigging that's like on the side of this would basically wrap around that manifold. So going to be very interesting to see how they end up doing that.
Could they be taking off those lifting points now to put further extended ones out so that they aren't near the manifolds? I mean, I haven't seen them putting any on yet, but is that a possibility?
Yes.
Well, I mean, if you look at the brackets for this manifold from the ground, they're pretty heavy duty brackets. Almost more of them than I would expect are truly needed. So with just the size of the brackets that are used for this, I imagine anything you install onto the side of this that is related to actually lifting it would be gigantic. So I don't know if you could just extend anything off like that, because it kind of I'm pretty sure it would run into that actual manifold. So I would imagine if you're going to install anything onto the side of it, it would have to be down here. Yeah, very, very curious that we haven't seen that yet, though, because we are expecting this to move between tomorrow and Tuesday. So, it seems pretty clear that it's probably going to be lifted almost immediately, given the fact that there's no concrete leading up to the actual pedestals for this, or the flame trench. You're probably not going to want to just sit this on the ground, because I mean, without having a bunch of crane mats on the ground, you're kind of worried about this thing actually sinking, as far as the SPMTs sinking with this massive load on top of them. So I imagine they'll have some mats placed on the ground so that the SPMTs can roll on top of that, and then they'll basically hold on to it until the crane lifts it. So I don't think you can necessarily set it down on temporary pedestals, because they would probably just sink into the dirt.
Yeah, and the way it's been set up, it's designed only to be held up by those 4 corners. They're
Right.
actually sitting slightly lower than the rest of the base of the OLM, and the 4 supports are proud of the walls, so it's not even. They take a large filler if they even wanted to weld it to. So yeah, I don't suspect.
Oh, sorry, you're talking about welding it to. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me see who's posted some good ground images of this. I'm going to move this over, because I think it's worth showing it from the side if we can find somebody who's posted a good ground image of it. I'll go ahead and probably look that up on the side while you finish that thought you were saying, Alex.
Yeah, I just to reiterate what Zach was saying, there's no place so far at the launch site that has sufficient ground support to have it sitting long term. Because yeah, the shot is great. Yeah,
So you can see the
zoom it.
offset in between the pedestal and where those bolts go through.
Yeah, and right to the right, if you follow the edge, there's a little bit of a notch on the. It's easier to see on the very corner. Keep going.
Hold on, really quick. What is this?
It's a temporary work platform, I believe, because that's where one of the cuties is probably going to be located, right above there,
Right. Okay.
and it's
And sorry, you were talking
suspended.
about down on this side.
Yeah, if you just go a little bit to the left, where the right there, back to the right, and a little bit, about half an inch. Split that lighter. Yeah, you can see
This right
the
here.
bottom. Keep heading to the right. You basically halfway, right about where your cursor is, just to the right of it. It steps down
Mm.
just
Yeah,
a
I could like
fraction.
right here.
Yeah. So
Oh,
that plate.
you're talking about the lip of the actual pedestal.
Yeah, that's the top where it would sit is lower than the rest of it. So supporting it long term by the where the SPMTs are would
Yeah,
start getting it to bend in awkward ways.
and I don't see that they've. And I mean, it may not even be necessary. But oops, sorry. I don't see that they've done any grinding down here, like in preparation to weld it down. But you do see these large bulkhead doors, which would give them access to the area where that all of those bolts are. I mean, obviously from this side you don't necessarily need that because there's all these different openings, but on the other sides you do need it. Um, yeah, this is just like I said, gigantic. And zooming out again, you can see human for scale over here. This thing is absolutely massive. And so we've basically, I guess, confirmed at this point. I guess it's been clear for a while that this side is going to be facing the gantry. So these um, bulkheads basically give them access from that gantry into the launch mount, and we can see a few pipes sticking out of here. I hope, man, I hope we get the view of this side when it rolls. That's like the one side that will actually show us anything. Um, it'll be really nice if they actually um, transport it with this facing the cameras, which it
Right.
kind of looks like they will. Yeah. Well, usually these are behind it, right? Not in front.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of clearance usually in the front.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I guess it means that it'll be turned around the other direction when they roll it. Like almost like they got to do a 180 with this before they get on the highway.
The thing is, Rover 2 will have of those
Say it again. But hopefully,
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
My.
Sounds
Much
good.
better.
Okay, well, yeah. Sorry about that, everybody. So are we good to go now?
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
All right. Well, I'm not sure if we do we know the source of that? Was that my fault right there? Or?
Discord. I lost all.
Oh.
Everything dropped out for me as well.
I'm not gonna lie, Discord's been getting worse. Like, it's one of the few apps that gets worse. Anyways, where did we leave off? So we were talking about that side view. I guess I can probably go back to that if we had anything else that we wanted to mention on that. Uh-oh. I just totally did something I did not want to do.
Oh, I can't stand it when that happens.
I know, and I actually don't know how to undo it. Hold on. Okay. That really sucks. Let's just okay, there we go. There we go. Sorry about that. Lots of technical difficulties all around today, everybody. Appreciate the patience. And let me see if I can go back to that now. Cool. And Jake was telling me actually that these are welded down, but it doesn't look like it. I do see that there's actually this one is welded. I suppose that one is too, huh? Well,
Yeah.
as long as there's openings on one side, I guess you don't necessarily need to be able to get in from all sides. So I guess that your actual access is only in from this angle, which makes sense actually because you're basically need to be able to get up onto the gantry in order to get into here instead of having to use man lifts or something like that. So yeah, very interesting. Alex, was there anything else you wanted to point out about some of the little details down here?
Not really. I think a lot of them will be easier to show once it's next week after it's moved.
Yeah,
This
agreed.
This wall seems excessive. How much this is supported, but
yeah, that's what I was talking about. The brackets on here, like that's ridiculous.
yeah, there's.
I mean, I do suppose you are going to have, depending on which direction the booster leaves the pad, you could have the actual thrust acting on this, but I don't think that will happen. So yeah, it does seem over supported, especially compared to this one. This actually has way more brackets on it than the other side, so that's very curious.
Yeah,
When you
go on.
go ahead, Al. Okay, I'll go. When you compare those brackets next to the scaffolding, there's a lot, and that's thick. That's half inch, maybe more thick of each one of those brackets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere, that's for sure.
Yeah, they've been fond of 1.5-inch plate steel on this.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of work left to go once they actually move it. Again, I was expecting that it would probably be more in a finished state, but I don't know if that's just a factor of limitations of how much weight they want to put on the road, or what the coming up on the limitations of the cranes. But yeah, very interesting. The fact that it's moving as early as it is. We'll touch on that a little bit more as well when we get to the launch site, because there's some things they had to do in order to kind of push this forward as far as moving it to the launch site. So in the meantime, anything else at Sanchez that we should cover? They do have some interesting things going on down here with another new workstation in for the Star Factory. So this one, we're thinking possibly related to aft sections for the ship. I obviously don't think you would have actual engines installed on here, but there are clearly holes here for basically the positions where those RVAC engines would be. But that's a little bit interesting, though, because the mounts for the RVACs are on the actual dome. So there's no way that this would actually need to interface with that mounting point. So yeah, I'm not really sure if I fully agree with this being for aft sections for ships, but it does kind of look like that. I guess we'll probably see a little bit more, hopefully, in the coming weeks once they get that put together. Anything else over in this area that you wanted to talk about, Alex?
Now there's just a bit more on the ship QDs they've been working on, but that's a little ahead of ourselves.
The QD arm? Oh,
yeah. And I don't think the interesting structures that showed up was after the flyover. No, there's not too much.
So they're doing more walkways in here, right? Nothing, no actual plumbing.
No, and there's the 5 other clamp arms right in the center frame. By the yeah.
1 second. I thought they were down here. Oh, right here. Yeah.
Yeah. Sort of halfway.
Yeah, so very clearly doesn't look like they're intending to install these until after it moves. Cool. So I guess, did we have any questions from Sanchez? This is actually a really cool picture right here showing ship 35 moving back. And I think this is just because of the fact that they're not trying to pass through the. Actually, they did when they moved it out the first time. They drove past the through the other entrance, right? This time when they transported it back, did it actually come all the way through the backside?
It came. I think there's some shots that show it. I thought it was the other side. It went closer to Highway 4.
You mean like through here?
Yeah, the upper. Yeah, there. I don't know.
Like on this road?
Yeah.
Really? That's weird because they just finished doing this, so it seemed like this is more reinforced for that purpose. I would be surprised if they came through here with that. Are you sure about that?
Now I don't feel sure. So
yeah, I thought they went through the back, but I'm not. I can't say that that's 100% what they did, but I thought that's where they were going.
I mean, it looks like that's where they're headed right now, through there. So
yeah, they're on their way back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess while we're over in this area, we'll go ahead and talk about that demolition work. Matter of fact, I'm probably just going to move us over to that front of that ring yard area, where we can see that they've begun demolishing the front side of the Star Factory extension, which never should have existed in the first place, in my opinion. I remember the very first moment we knew that this was going to happen, I hated it. And it's actually refreshing, in my opinion, to see this get torn down. They actually have some really good video from this from, I can't remember who it was. I know, obviously, Lab Padre got a good video, but somebody was sitting out there the day this dropped. Was that Sean?
Gazer.
Oh,
it's either Sean or Ryan.
I think they were both out there, but they happened to be out there when they dropped this section. So you can kind of see here on the remaining part, they cut the supports up top, and I think at the end they just like sliced through them, and then the whole thing just like fell. So still glass installed when it fell as well too, but I'm surprised they didn't remove all of that first. But I think they're just going for the quick route to bring this thing down. And I believe they have mostly paused on high bay Am I wrong? I haven't been looking at the high bay over the last few weeks.
There's
Have
very
they done
little
anything else to it?
happened.
Yeah.
One panel sort of looked like it fell after the crane had a little bit of a scare after they pulled down the front of Star Factory.
hmm I'm kind of
But
curious if it's reached the point where they don't need to disassemble the rest of it. They can just drop it from here. Um, as long as they can guarantee that it'll fall in this area.
that's my expectation as well. And
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem at risk of going onto the highway, so
it looks like they're more interested in reopening this exit from Star Factory.
right. So
Wonder
I guess the
why.
question here, are which we haven't necessarily gotten an answer to yet. Do you think that this building will go up against the Star Factory? I think we've been assuming that that won't happen, mostly because of the fact that they still need access to this entrance, which, as you can see, they built that wall and have the large garage door right there. They need this garage door in order to get nose cone sections out because they can't move it through these smaller doors. So I'm assuming that pretty much rules out the possibility of the Gigabay butting up against the factory, right?
I think it still could, because they're just going to have a row of columns supporting it along that wall. And since the Gigabay is going to primarily be an open span, it'll be like this, whereas there'll be periods of time they won't be able to get anything out when they're roofing in that area.
Mhm.
But
Do they have a big door on the? They don't have any other larger doors on the backside, right? So they're pretty much. This is the only what's on this side. I don't think they have one, right?
yeah, this is the only way in and out of the nose cone area.
Okay. Yeah, this is going to be very interesting to see the next steps of this. I do wonder how far over the actual foundation for this building is going to go. But we should probably start seeing once they finish dropping this, we'll probably see those drilling rigs show up soon. The CFA drilling rigs. So exciting times ahead. That's going to be pretty awesome. Other than the fact that it will just block even more views depending on how far up it goes. I'm really hoping it doesn't butt up against the factory. That would make sense from SpaceX's standpoint to do something like that. You probably want to go straight from the factory into those buildings so that you're not really the only time people really see anything is when it rolls out to either Massey's or the launch site. But yeah, that would be pretty sad because even though we don't have a ring yard anymore, just seeing those sections of the vehicles move from the Star Factory to the base does give us some clues about some of the things that are on the inside of the vehicle. But yeah, times are obviously changing, and I guess this was expected to happen at some point.
Very unfortunate development.
See. What was that?
It's a very unfortunate development.
It is. I agree.
Hey, Zach, I got a bunch of support and questions on Sanchez I'd like to touch on before we go too much further.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I want to thank Crane Man for a PayPal donation of $154. $154 for fuel for the 154th episode. Great show and photos, RGV team. Thank you, Crane Man. Much appreciated. So we got a bunch of people trying to nail Vix a gifted membership. So we got Indian Star gifting 10, Wilbo Baggins gifting 1, Drew Nar gifting 1, Andy Alder gifting 1, Daniel Hogbin gifting 5, Callista Lee gifting 5, Phil gifting 5, Eric Fraser gifting 1, Thomas Bossemeyer gifting 5 just now as well. I don't know if I missed Eric Fraser gifting 1, but then there's Indian Star with another 10, Drew Nar with 5, and Not Tom B with 5 gifted memberships. Thank you all for all that amazing support. Also got, let's see,
Really quick, are all these? You said all these gifted memberships are an attempt to have one land on Vix?
That's exactly right.
I bet you anything she has that feature disabled.
I'm thinking so. All right,
Yeah.
Junar with a Canadian $5 super chat. What's your guess at the current OLM weight? I've seen everywhere from 400 tons to 1,200 tons.
Way closer to 1,200 than 400. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Definitely.
no way to really know.
I mean, but they're actually, you can get pretty close. Given how well it's been modeled, as long as you assign a relatively close material to it, you can estimate the mass. That's basically how Ryan was able to determine how much the hold down arms weigh. Each of those arms being roughly 9 tons, 20 of those, basically 200 tons just in hold down arms. So you can imagine the rest of the structure is probably a lot more than 400. So I'd have to put it, I would say 1,200 probably makes sense. We haven't gotten an updated number, what it would be with those arms in there. But 1,200 sounds about right.
Vic says she does not have it disabled.
Well, the universe is working against her.
JS Web Music took a stab with a gifted membership as well, didn't make it. Wilbo Baggins with a £2 super chat says it's really hefty. Phil says with a £9.99 super chat, can't gift membership, so here's fuel and oxygen money. Keep up the great work. Love this place. Thank you very much for that, Phil. Hal 9000 with a question. Do you think once this launch mount is moved, will they start construction on the next launch mount?
I would say probably within 3 to 6 months. It really depends. Actually, they may go even sooner because I mean, it really depends on what their preference originally was for this. Like, if they were originally intending on fully building this out before moving it, then they may actually legitimately do that next time and get started on it earlier, so that by the time it is ready to move, that they won't have to do as much work at the launch site. By the time they're ready to install the basically when they have the Pad B launch mount built and the flame trench completed, the pace of launches from Pad B will be a lot greater than what's being seen this year currently. So I think this year we may get lucky and have, I'm going to guess, somewhere between 6 and 8 launches. And next year, probably actually reach that 25 mark that they're shooting for. With that being said, they probably will want to do as much work, even more work, at the Sanchez site instead of at the launch site. So if that requires a bigger crane in order to pull that off, then that would probably end up happening. But yeah, I think we should probably see them start the next one rather soon. They actually only have three boosters left that can use Pad A?
Yes.
14, 15, 16, and 17? Is 17 fully stacked?
I believe so. Yeah. Well, it had to because they're disabling the station at Massey's for Block 1 boosters.
You're right. Yeah. So, they only have a handful of launches that they can still do on that Pad A. So I imagine within the first 2 flights from this one, I wouldn't be surprised if they decommission Pad A. What do you guys think?
I'm expecting them to clean up this area and start building another one.
Yeah.
Probably by August at the latest.
Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely expect to see another one coming here real soon.
All the substructures are quite robust and better designed than just putting it on pipe jacks like they did previously.
Right. Yeah, I think there's also some questions that related to Pad A. If they're going to need more land in order to construct the flame trench there, I'm not sure if they have enough, especially if they want to, if they're going to need to still have a sorry, I'm thinking of the little pond. What's it called? The retention pond.
Retention.
If they still want to have the retention pond in that area, then they're definitely going to need to expand out of their current footprint a little bit, I think. So I'm wondering if we'll probably soon see some permitting coming out for Pad A.
I think there's room for the trench, but definitely not with the current configuration for retention ponds.
I guess we'll revisit that when we get to the launch site. We'll check it out from that angle. Astro Joe, did we have any more questions about Sanchez? I've kind of been sitting on this image for quite a while. So,
Man, these guys are just throwing me for a loop. I'm so disorganized. The support is coming in so fast. Questions are coming in so fast. I'm way behind on everything. So, Todd, this guy, thanks for sending 5 gifted memberships. Queen Bees gifting a membership. Callistia Lee gifting 5. Jake Winlow gifting 5. Thomas Bossenmeyer, 20 gifted memberships. Michael J. Bertoldi joining as a flight supporter. Michael J. Bertoldi gifting membership. And Thomas Bossenmeyer gifting another 20 memberships. Hold on a second.
Hang in there, Joe. We get it, man. I'm glad that
no
you
more
wasn't last week. I know I couldn't.
So just to confirm, no more Sanchez questions.
Yeah, there's plenty. I got a bunch. Eric Fraser, when the OLM rolls, will they have to clear the highway of cars and potentially move cameras that are D1 and D2? OLM seems like they need all that space.
I personally don't get how they're going to get it through the entrance of the launch site. But again, we'll talk about it a little bit more when we get there. Yeah, I imagine anything that's on the side of the road right now, they may move it. Lab Padres camera is usually pretty far off the side of the road, so I have a feeling it'll actually be able to stay there when it moves. When it gets closer to the launch site, I guess that's a whole nother question, but little tough to predict that one.
All right, I got Alex Hedges gifting 5 memberships as well. Pete's Guide, $2 super chat to reinforce my vote for Team Interchangeable OLM. Andy Alder, £2 super chat. New credit card test. You can have it for flight. Thank you for that. Cosmic with a question. Why are you still calling it OLM? Isn't it just a launch mount?
I mean, I'm never going to not call it the OLM. It's just going to roll off my tongue that way, to tell you the truth. But yeah, I don't know. In some ways, you can argue that this is more of an orbital launch mount than the original one. Like, I personally view the original one as a booster test stand that they just so happen to be able to launch from. I kind of get the feeling that it's more of a test stand than an actual launch mount. That's just how I view it. So, in my opinion, this one is the orbital launch mount. The other one was the orbital test stand.
All right, got to thank Jess Martin for gifting 5 memberships as well. And James Robert asking a question, does the hold down arms not being installed change the movable launch mount idea?
Only if the reason they're not installed is because of road limitations instead of crane limitations.
All right, a Skeletal Ghost asking, how many axles will the 3 SPMTs have total?
These are them right here. So they're basically had moved from this position over to the launch mount. So I don't know if we can necessarily
72 axles because these are 324s.
Okay, 72 on each.
Or total.
72 total. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's 24 per string.
Right.
All right.
Cool. Any more?
Let's see. Pete's Guide, what do you mean only a handful of launches on Pad A? 3 Mark 1 boosters times multiple flights each, right?
Yeah. I mean, theoretically, but that depends on how many launches the actual deluge plate can withstand. So, from my understanding, it's approaching its limit.
All right, and then Cumulus Granatus, would they build the OLM for KSC here and ship it, given the supply chain here is already established?
Nope. The one for KSC is actually being built at KSC currently. So they're working on the flame trench, working on the actual launch mount itself. All of that stuff is being built down there. Honestly, if anything, it would be built down there and shipped here. But they have more space to do all that stuff down there.
True.
And a lot of the stuff related to the actual flame trench and all that is being built down there too. Most of the stuff, the mechanical components that are involved in tank farm and launch mount are all coming from KSC. That reminds me, I had an article I was supposed to put out about that exact topic, and I completely forgot. I'm gonna have to do that soon. Okay, any more Sanchez questions?
Winding down here. Keon asking, what is the problem with the triangle section of the Star Factory, Zach?
It's super ugly.
Yeah, that'll work.
The windows were cool.
I agree.
The windows were cool, but other than that, like, it looks like it's supposed to be flat. It didn't really make sense to me. Because you could still put windows on this if you wanted to. You could do windows down the entire length of this wall if you really wanted to. So yeah, other than the windows, I think it really just was out of place.
With
All right,
architectural piece to sort of match the other side's angle on the office portion.
Yeah.
So yeah, just
it's basically useless in my opinion. It's like a driveway to exit the building, and we can clearly see that wasn't necessary. You could just put a door right there. So
it was lighting money on fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, a question for Beatty G111. Do you think they will continue removing pieces on high bay or bring it down?
Yeah, we did talk about that a few minutes ago. We're not sure. I do think there's a possibility that at this point they could just drop the rest of it instead of having to actually lift panels down one by one. We will soon see. I think they may have just gotten it down. I don't know what its current height is compared to the mid bay, what that was when they dropped it. But even still, it's still a wider and larger structure than the mid bay, no matter how short they get it. I'm hoping they drop it. That'd be pretty cool to watch.
Agreed, yeah. All right, and to clear my queue, a nice segue question from Cosmic. Is 38 a test ship because of the angled hydraulic holes?
Are we talking about test tank 17?
Well, specifically mentioned ship 38.
I feel like I'm missing something. Either it's been mislabeled or there's something I'm not aware of. Yeah,
I'm not aware of.
Supports, yeah, the only thing I've seen with angled supports going through it is that test tank 17. And that is only a test tank. I don't think that is ship related at all either. It's a booster test article.
Okay. All right, and I am apparently forgetting a question from Crane Man. How will they lift OLMB since there are no lifting eyes anymore?
Yeah, we don't know. We've been speculating on that, but don't really have an answer yet.
I was going to throw one more my thought. I don't know. I guess it's throwing spaghetti to the wall and seeing what sticks. What about if they were to take some large beams underneath it and pick it from the beam, setting it down on top of the pedestals? I can't recall seeing any large beams at the launch site, but I wasn't looking for them. I was kind of going to save that for once we get to the launch site, but I'm wondering if they're going to do something like that. I mean, it would take some massive beams.
Yeah. I would think that if they were going to do something like that, they would have put the beams on top of the SPMTs already, or like
Yeah.
yeah. I would imagine that in order to get those underneath there, you would
Good
you'd
point.
probably be better off just sitting them on top of the SPMTs.
All right, I got to thank Callistia Lee for gifting 10 more memberships, and then another membership from Six String Simpleton. Thank you all for that. And then we've got one final question here from Phil, or not a question, but says they welded them on overnight. That being the lifting points.
I saw them doing grinding. I didn't see them actually welding anything.
Like checks the live cams. I remember exactly what you just
Yeah, I
what
haven't
you
seen
saw.
anything like that. I was looking at the live cams before the show. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I was up until about 1 a.m. Central Time last night, and I thought I saw some welding on the right side and grinding on the back side. So it looked like they were kind of prepping for attaching lift points.
Okay. Yeah, I may have to recheck that.
It's very dark to side. I thought they were potentially welding. It looks like it was more of just cutting and grinding.
Do we need to go to the village at all? I don't think there's necessarily anything to really cover there right now. Not a ton of progress with the actual apartment complex.
No, it's very similar to last week, I believe.
Thought I had a good view of that. Right here? Yeah. Very similar indeed. They're still working on the foundation. Yeah, not a ton of progress other than that. Still the same old house construction going on in here. The village is a village now, and it gets really boring, as villages are. Cool. Well, I guess in that case, we will go ahead and move ourselves over to the launch site. Let's start with Pad A. So, Pad A is being prepared for Flight 9. The one thing that kind of sucks about all the Pad B action is that nobody has really had cameras on Pad A. So there's been so many things happening over here that we've missed, and that's super unfortunate. We do know that they've replaced at least one of these arms, and I've been trying to figure out which one it is. This is the only one that looks like kind of shiny. Yeah, they actually cut one of these arms out and replaced it. This was about, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago before the last static fire test. But yeah, they are doing a lot of work up here. Can't really see what's happening. However, they are mostly have this area cleared. It seems like as far as launch site preparedness goes, they're ready for Flight 9. Really, it's vehicle readiness that's kind of holding things back right now. So one thing I was looking for actually, and before the show, Alex, you may have an answer to this. We do see some CFA drilling rigs being set up over here, or at least, yeah. Do you have any idea where this is?
My only expectation is perhaps the lifting landing area is the only place they never put piles, but with all the deluge pipes under there, it seems out of order that they would have drilled it previously.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're not going to really start anything in this area at this time, right? So, like,
unless they're
a bunch of farm.
There's well, to get back here without it would be challenging without removing the vents over the paths from the LOX hippos. So I don't think it's anything in the suborbital area, or I mean the old orbital farm. And this looks like it was the least intrusive place for them to stage stuff.
So just a little temporary holding location far away from where it's actually going to be used.
Yeah, those cryogenic pipes there are curious.
Yeah, they're pretty far away from anywhere I would expect these to be. You think they
unless
might? Sorry, go ahead.
I'm thinking they might be for the methane farm.
Over here.
On this side, by the blast wall, there's a shot that there's some pipe work sitting.
Oh,
Yeah,
right here.
yeah,
But
the
there's
old fill
penetration through this?
stations.
Right.
Yeah, looks like they're expanding them because I thought there were only 2 for the longest time.
That would make sense. Let's look at the backside of this actually, if I have a good view of that. I don't really think there's anything else at pad A for us to talk. Oops. At pad A for us to talk about, so we can go ahead and move over to the tank farm. And let's see if I have a frontal view. Okay. Well, I would say putting stuff behind this wall. I mean, will it fit?
Unless they put on the top row, no. I thought there was a shot that further down.
Yeah, I'm looking for one that looks down the side of it. Maybe we can see it with this one. Is that the same view? No.
Pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close to it. So this right here may actually be that fill line, right? So like it seems like this is going down. I know there's another pipe down here, but is there penetration through the wall right here for where that could be the methane fill?
No, the methane fill was on the other side of there by the old tanks, so I think we'd have to. Yeah, that
Over here.
it'd be further to the. Yeah, you can see some of the large ones just to. Yeah, right there. Yeah, so they're staging pipes and all sorts of. Wait, is that freshly destroyed concrete too?
Where?
By the vaporizer, right there, down. Yeah.
No, that's water.
Oh, wow. Okay. They never fix that problem.
No, there's a lot of things they haven't fixed. Wait, so this right here is
The
this
old,
related to methane?
yeah, that's
Okay.
a fill line that used to just go straight through, and now it looks like they've expanded, or they're starting to. Yeah,
And so was there always only 3 fill ports?
there used to only be one that had a T on it. That right to the right, there's a little box on the wall. Yeah, and that was a penetration they went through.
So this is all new expansion, I guess.
Yeah, new. I haven't seen it for a while, so
It's always been crazy to me that they only have like the ability to offload like 2 methane trucks at a time.
yeah, it's bonkers.
I do remember the days when they were attempting to offload everything in the front right here. When they were, I think the parking spots went all the way back over here. I want to say
They still do, and there's some evidence from ground photos that they might be moving methane fill back here
to
as
the front.
well. Yeah,
Nice. As long as they keep liquid nitrogen in between the locks and methane offloads. I'm pretty sure there was a rule. There was a reason that why they moved it to the back. So I'd be surprised to see it come to the front again, especially with this new wall here. I mean, I suppose you have enough space for that here, but you're actually losing space now that I think about it behind here. So like if you look at this image right here, with that wall up, there's very little space back here for offloading. It's like I guess you could park them against this wall, but I imagine they may not necessarily want them inside of here.
no, and that the long term they need to fix this because I expect this to be a active construction site in September.
If you look at the lines right here, are these parking spots for methane trucks? Like future parking spots?
No, those were just car parking when they decided for a week to try and ban street parking.
Yeah, that's been a while.
Okay. Um, Cool. Yeah. So definitely some mystery stuff going on down here, both with that drilling rig getting set up and these pipes that they're putting on the backside. We are definitely some GSE nerds here, so we could probably spend hours talking about what's going on with this tank farm. But in general, I guess what are the major changes you would want to mention this week, Alex? I mean, like I said, there's so much that we could talk about here because it's just crazy. Like this is the craziest part of Starbase, in my opinion, is this tank farm right here.
It is. To your point about them building so much away in Florida, I mean, the change in the methane side, it's just crazy for.
It looks amazing though. Like just seeing, I mean, even though there's just so much in one little tiny area, it just looks so much more official. You know what I mean? Like I thought the original tank farm looked pretty crazy, but this is just insane. Like you'll never see this at any other launch site. There's just no reason for anybody to move this much propellant this quickly.
Right. And they're
yeah.
the only interesting is they're finally setting up the ends as the lines driving into the propellant trench.
These?
Yeah. And the large pipes as well.
Yeah, I talked about this last week, but I'm going to mention it again this week. For those who are unaware of the recent purchase of the 400 to 800 millimeter lens, this is just I wish Mauricio had this like years ago, because there's been so many times where I've been trying to zoom in to this point to catch small details. Like you can almost pick up, like if there was a QR code on the top of this, you could probably scan it. There's QR code, but seriously.
Yeah, these top down with this lighting condition. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I've been lamenting the same way.
On that note, I do want to say one more thing about just the overall. Like, I do definitely appreciate all of the photographers who get down there, and especially if Mauricio is ever not to get up, able to get up during a week. Like, a lot of people will do low angle flyovers, but with all due respect to them, I don't know if it's just because of how long he's been doing it, but it's really hard to match the quality of images that Mauricio takes from 10,000 feet in the air, with his basically sticking his hand and the camera out the window to get these images. So,
in gloves. Don't forget, in gloves.
Yeah, with gloves and an oxygen mask. Yeah.
Sometimes without a door.
Without a door?
I think sometimes they've flown, or the windows could. Yeah, I think he's done some crazy things.
Maybe he doesn't want people to know.
Oh.
Yeah, so the methane tank farm, there were the methane pump area. I don't know, Alex, what do you call this whole area? Because it's more than just pumps. Methane distribution.
Yeah, it's the inlet and distribution.
Yeah, so it's definitely coming along. They have all of the valves in here. They have not dropped any of the actual pumps in yet, so they do have all of the sleeves and a lot of the pumps over in the tank farm area. This is a tank farm area as well too. But back in here, we can see two of the casings right here. I think there's three more over here. Wait.
They're all here now.
Yeah, they're all here. So that's all of them. They're just basically sitting around waiting to be installed. And I do believe there were some pumps waiting as well too, but I think those were at the Sanchez site, I want to say. But
Thought one got installed, but it could be.
And am I crazy, or were all of the LOX pump installed at one point and then they pulled some of them?
No, they've been pulling as they go when they were testing, because for the longest time only those N2 were hooked up. Oh, they have the basket strainer opened. Interesting.
Yeah, they have two of them open. I think there's a person inside of this one. Yeah.
Wow. That's good. That's a good scale.
Look how massive that is. You could literally crawl through these pipes. What you said, these are 30-inch pipes?
The other 24, the methane one is 30. You could crawl through both of them easily.
Where'd he go?
Oh, it's yeah. Where did he go?
Fell in.
I mean, yeah, you could literally crawl in there to. I feel like you almost would have to in order to. Wait. That's the pump. The
Yeah.
basket
Oh,
frame is
yeah.
down here. So
Wow.
wait, which one was he in? That one?
That one, and there's one a little bit further to the left that was. Oh, Mauricio must have caught them mid.
Yeah, mid clean out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is still just like I said, extremely impressive. I do wonder, what they have remaining as far as like if there's anything additional for the lock side of things that they still have yet to bring in here. I know they're still working on these vaporizers in the front of the tank farm. It looks like they actually, well, in one of the other images, it looked like they had delivered some of those vaporizers.
There's one on the methane side. Yeah,
there it
right
is,
there.
right there. Okay. Yeah, so
Yeah.
oh, okay. Now I see what's going on here. So these are forced air vaporizers.
Yeah.
So are they moving the ones that were originally over here, or they just haven't brought these back?
They haven't brought these back. Those are for the methane side. Because there's
You mean these
both
ones are for the methane side?
yeah, and those 6 are the nitrogen side. And unfortunately, those are still the 2 water jacketed vaporizers that they have in the old fluids bunker.
Right.
I want those.
For the
I
methane.
want those.
So that's what these
Yeah.
are basically replacing.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And the vertical tank that was sitting by the port that's missing, obviously, will go in that corner.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
that's for.
essentially, I won't get
Oh,
like too deep into it, but all of these systems are basically pressure building circuits for these tanks. So, do they actually have one dedicated for the nitrogen, or is this both together for
the
LOX?
6 there are for nitrogen, the 5 are for LOX. The shorter ones are for high pressure gas generation. Those 2. One's for LOX. The middle tank is
Surface fiber
LOX.
for LOX?
Those are for LOX. And those 3 vertical tanks are LOX tanks. Right now, on either side. Yeah, those 3.
Okay. Yeah, this is one of those things that, like I said, I feel like we could talk about forever. I'm really excited to eventually put out an episode about this. Originally, we were thinking about trying to like animate everything that's happening here, but that's not going to happen. It's just
Maybe a pump assembly.
It's crazy, and it's even it's still getting crazier because they've only gotten half of the actual. I don't even know if you want to call this a distribution manifold.
That's one of them is the collection of the liquid vapor. It looks like they might be merging it with the liquid line, which is kind of interesting. But
yeah, I guess what I was saying is that they've only gotten half of these outlets that they're starting to handle. They still have the other half, which I'm guessing will probably be loop around and come down here somewhere.
yeah,
But I mean, they're really maxing out all of this space. Like this right here will be the only space remaining that you can actually get a vehicle of any size back here.
yeah, and those are surge slash knocked phase separating tanks. Those 2 vertical ones
These
for the
ones?
methane. Yeah, for detanking.
I told you, and you said they were condensers, right? There's just
Well,
phase separation.
it's similar. Yeah, I mean, if you spray it in under pressure and you subcool the liquid, which is usually what you do, it'll condense.
So I guess just for reminder for those who didn't hear us talking about this last week, we do believe these are for detanking methane. So basically separating liquid from gas, because in those detank lines, especially at the beginning of detanking, they're going to be like kind of warm compared to everything else. So there's going to be a lot of boil off during the beginning of detanking. So you have to actually separate all of that gas from the liquid. I think after a certain point, you start to get like primarily liquid flow, and then there's not as much separation happening. But at the very beginning of detanking, especially, you got a lot of gas generation happening within those pipes. So got to handle all of that stuff and recompress it back into a liquid and send it back to the tanks. So the whole methane processing system is probably is a lot crazier than what's involved on the lock side, because they just fill it through the same line, or drain it through the same line that they fill from, which it just goes back to the tanks. Anything that's boiled off kind of just gets vented away. They don't try and reclaim it like they do with the methane. So yeah, extremely wild stuff going on down here. I can't wait to see this fire up for the first time, because it's going to be just the amount of venting in this area is going to be crazy, and all coming from one location, essentially. This one, and I think there'll probably be another box over here where everything is vented into those boxes with the fan pointing straight up into the air. So things will look a lot different when this is activated.
Yeah, I'm still not sold that they're not going to all end up at that one, because the pipe just to the right of it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's sitting upside down, and it looks like they opened up a bit of that side.
Right here?
Yeah. No, I think that'll feed in where the LOX hippos are feeding in, on the upper left corner of the vent stack.
If they vent all of this to one location, that's going to be insane.
Yeah, it's
like, I don't think you guys fully understand how much volume of gas is going to come from that, because it's like what you see coming from here. Let me grab the image to show this. I'm so excited about this. Basically, the venting you see coming from these 4 outlets, and the 4 over here. What? Yeah, 3 on the methane side. All of that will be combined into one location, and the actual rate that they're pumping, subcooling, will be increased by, what is it, 30%?
At least 50%. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, not only are you putting it all in one place, there's 50% more subcooling happening, which means 50% more vaporization going on. So prop load is going to be unreal. Like, it's kind of low to the ground, you know what I mean? I would have built like a whole tower. What? Well, never mind. And now I think about the exhaust plume coming through there. Probably not a good idea.
Yeah, I'm with you, but
oh man, I'm so excited for the tank farm. Like, Pad B is cool, but the tank farm is where it's at. On that note, I'm going to move us over to Pad B, or else we'll just sit there talking about tank farms all day. And before we get to the actual flame trench, we will talk about the water deluge system, which is much further, or getting there right now as far as completion goes. There is a big component of this that is missing. So obviously we have the 2 groups of water tanks. However, what we don't have, we have nitrogen storage, which is part of the gas generation system for this, but that is just the storage for the nitrogen that is being supplied to the gas generation system. There does not actually have the gas generation system here yet. So on Pad B, or Pad A, let me see if I can see that from one of these images. I'm not gonna go. Anyways, Pad A basically stores all of their high pressure gas in tanks like these. I'm sure y'all have seen those before. So they pressurize those tanks with gas, and then whatever those tanks are holding is whatever they have available for supplying the deluge system. This one is going to be different. It's an active pressure building or active gas generation system. We just don't see those gas generators yet. So essentially, more than likely, you're actually using the water to vaporize liquid nitrogen and then sending that vaporized liquid nitrogen back to the tanks. So it's like a closed loop gas generation system. But we just don't know how it works yet. And this is probably the coolest part of the whole thing. But it's nothing has appeared for it yet.
No, it's all substantially different than McGregor, Massey's, and Pate.
Yeah, it seems like these guys were like, how can we put the craziest system in the smallest footprint? And then this is what they came up with. I don't think there is another deluge system anywhere that would probably push out as much water as this one does as quickly, right? So whatever that system is, basically needs to outperform the gravity-driven systems at 39A and 39B.
Or the massive pumps they have at Stennis.
Right. Yeah. This is more volumetric flow rate out of this than any other flame trench in the world, for sure.
Yeah.
Stennis is pump, right? It is not like a gas system. It is a pump system. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's pumped and pretty far away from the test stands as well.
That's what I thought. I was making sure. Thank you.
It's like a mile away.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, their pond is enormous.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this water system. So one of the things that's a bit confusing that we were talking about before the show, you can see that they still have these water pipes up here, and we know that this one specifically, well, probably all of these are going underground. You can see that they're using the actual larger pipe as the pipe rack for the smaller ones, and this actually needs to go down here somewhere. Wait.
Right.
Hold on.
By that.
Does it go down here, or because they've done this part, right? Like an L coming through here.
It's a section running parallel with the tower. Yeah, right through there.
Yeah. So basically, what's happening here is because they want to bring the launch mount in quickly, like tomorrow, they decided to fill in the area that they were working in for the actual water pipes. I don't know if they have. Is there only one line that's completed?
No, the other two
are got to be done, right?
Yeah, the other two are completely encased in that thrust block.
Right, and this right here is where the other ones are going to run to. This little gap.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I guess I'll back up a little bit and look at this from another angle, so you can see that the area between the actual sheet pile wall and the wall of the trench, that little gap in there, has all been filled in. So it looked like they had just probably finished it like hours before this flyover. So that means that you can see the water pipes coming up. There, the one water pipe coming up through there, which goes then through the trench wall. And yeah, we're gonna see more pipes coming this direction right here. So after the launch mount is lifted, they're gonna just dig all of this back out and finish that. So a lot of effort going into here to lay down the what do you call this?
Geofabric.
Geofabric. Two layers of it. So pull that back up and dig down through here once that launch mount is installed. I think they're really having to make sure this area is like super compact as possible too, because not only are you going to have both of these gigantic cranes over here, but you will also have obviously a 1,200 ton launch mount. So yeah, they got to get that lined out and probably as flat as possible, I'd have to imagine, just so they can make sure that when they lift it, everything is they don't have to worry about it like swinging or anything like that, just from being not level when they start that lift. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. And one of the things that I was mentioning a little bit ago was the fact that it's going to be interesting to see them move that launch mount through here, because there's not a lot of space for it. So especially right here, like this area right here, I guess is probably literally the perfect width within like 5 meters, if I had to guess, of being able to allow that launch mount to pass through there. So down here, you can see they were laying some concrete. I'm guessing that was also in preparation for this. Obviously, they need to fill it in anyways, but the fact that they were doing it this day makes it seem pretty clear that they're preparing for that move. And same thing down here. They had, I can't remember how long it's been since that storage building was here, or was it within the last week that they demolished the whole thing?
They just demolished it this week and hauled away those white shipping containers. At least 2 of them, I believe, so far.
Yeah. So then it looks like they're preparing probably to just widen that entrance. And I don't know if that's going to be just temporary or permanent, but when they move that launch mount in here, it's going to be difficult because you don't want to have to like go out into here and then come back in. Another option actually is to go past it and then back in, because it's actually a little bit easier to come in from this direction. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. And I'm imagining have they started laying concrete down in this area?
I haven't seen it, but the amount of rebar in that sections are pouring, it kind of looks like the main. It kind of looks like everything is going to shift that direction post move.
What do you mean?
They're reinforcing the heck out of that square. That kind of looks like it's going to be in line with the.
Is that a crazy amount of rebar? It doesn't look like a crazy amount of rebar.
For just a padded, I mean, just for a roadway, it is.
But it's not a roadway.
I guess it might be. I mean, it might be where they're.
You think that's the new driveway?
I think it'll be part of it, just where the mixed truck is. Yeah.
Do you think it would actually pass SPMTs over this part of the trench?
No, I think it'll just be
here.
Yeah. Because that entrance is going to get smaller when they finish the last of the blast wall corner.
You know, it would be awesome, and I don't know if he even has the ability to do this. Never mind. If it's going to move at night, I was going to say it would be awesome if Mauricio was able to like get up in the air and actually get images while it's moving. He did capture the other one while it. Oh no, I don't think he caught it while it was moving. I think he got it right after it arrived. When Pad A's launch mount was transported to the launch site, I'm pretty sure he got in the air like right after it arrived. So, yeah, but being able to see how it actually moves through here would be pretty crazy.
I would definitely contribute to the field fund for that flight.
I agree. So back over to the flame trench. I feel like I've been talking this whole time. Alex, do you want to have anything you want to add about updates down here?
I mean, they finished most of the wall finally, at least under the OLM. Where it's going to sit, more than likely, they're not going to fill any of this until the OLM's up there. Especially with this move and concrete needing a few days to cure.
But it's not like is the wall the bottom of the launch mount will actually rest on this though, or is there a gap?
No, it's going to rest. There's a gap. There's probably a 4-inch gap. The walls end below the flat plate where the OLM's going to sit by the thickness of that plate. So it's between 2 and 4 inches.
But
so around 100 centimeters for.
It is possible that they could put a steel plate to cap this off?
The main issue is for the welding of the corners. They only have access to 3 of the 4 sides once the
What do you
mount
mean by
is
that?
set. The section between the legs, they'd never be able to weld between the square mounting plate, which is why team movable maintenance removing mount is still on the board.
So, well,
I,
I will say actually though that if you, well,
I don't. Yeah,
never mind. I was gonna say you could come in from the side, but there is there an access way through the pedestal?
no,
No, is it
no.
the
It's at
backside?
the back end. Yeah, and
Okay, so
the middle section of wall is this wall is independent from the legs, so the 2 structures will be able to move somewhat out of phase with each other.
oh,
But
so there's these have walls right here.
oh yeah,
Okay,
and
so
Yep.
yeah,
yeah, there's some ground shots that you could fit your hand between the 2.
that's interesting.
Yeah, and sort of the gap is also, it seems like, to account for any sort of sagging in the middle that might happen to keep the 2 structures somewhat isolated from each other.
yeah. I guess it makes sense that you would want them isolated.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
you could use the upper half of that wall to sort of dampen the section below it where it's holding all the weight.
right. Yeah, so they
And
still have a ways to go on the rest of the wall too. So they um, uh, did start to pour concrete on this side, but we don't know how high up this is going to go because it at some point is going to have to match this wall right here. So that's what, like 2 to 3 levels higher, 3 levels higher.
yeah, it's 3 level, 2.75.
Okay, yeah.
The
So they're
upper
gonna have
one is
to
slightly.
still build the rest of this section right here. If I actually get a better angle, that might help us out. There we go. Yeah, this is looking really good though. One of actually, sorry, just really quick, I wanted to check how many of these actual sections they still had laying around here. Is that the only one out here?
I believe so.
Okay. So I
Yeah,
guess we should see more of those delivered soon.
yeah, they haven't brought any in for the rest of what's in place, like for the sidewalls yet. So
Right. Let's talk about the the flame bucket. So this is something that we were discussing before the show, which is I wonder if this was just bound to happen. Alex, what do you think? So basically, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, I originally thought they were going to put a crossbeam because the way it was supported, it just sort of sagged and pulled the outer sections apart.
Yeah, so basically what's happening here is this flame bucket is basically constructed in well, it's all one large structure. However, it was built in kind of like sections. So these pipes were left off because they wanted to be able to attach the rigging for lifting this. So then they have to add these last pipes into the gaps, and as you can see, that's a pretty big gap. And you definitely don't want a gap because you'll have flames passing through it and water. Well, you may have water getting back there anyways, I think, possibly. But yeah, you don't want that gap. So you can see right here that they're, I mean, you can only weld across such a large gap before you have to start like actually adding filler material, which is what they're doing here, actually adding plates. Are these just, you think these are plates or rods?
I think they're rods or pipes. Probably rods, because I don't think they'd want to deal with a thin
Yeah.
pipe.
So basically, rods or possibly plates that are just slipped between these. And so basically, that allows them to weld the pipes to that rod and then to the other pipe because they can't. Well, I think theoretically they could join them together after that point. Like they can get one solid bead going all the way across the other one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm surprised because these deflectors float more or less on the under support. They're basically just held on with tabs so that the whole surface can move a little bit independent of its support frame. So I'm really surprised they weren't putting a large jack and just trying to pull it back together rather than fill the gap. Because that's what they're
you mean
doing it.
pull it from this side, like
Yeah, like they were doing it at Sanchez. They were also welding on some supports and basically
putting
clamping them
tension
together.
across the entire thing to squeeze it.
Yeah. So, because
Yeah,
it's
that's a good
almost
question. I mean, but how would you attach it? You know what I mean? Like you would be attaching the jack on the edge of these pipes, which maybe that's what they don't want to do.
yeah. Or if you had like an L bracket welded across the face and the jacks attached to that, but
Right.
I think they went with the easy path, says just put in some fillet rods and call it a day.
These look like plates to me.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they're probably just cut down
And they're like
square.
3 inches wide at least. So that's pretty crazy. If not more. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if
Yeah.
this is like 5 inches right here. There's a man even for scale.
The pipes are 219.4 or 8 and 625 inches wide. So yeah, that's probably at least inch and a half, 2 inches. Yeah.
Yeah, this is pretty crazy. Just looking at it from this view, I was skeptical about like how for the center engines firing down on top of this thing basically. But yeah, I feel pretty confident about this. What do you think?
I think it'll be fine, especially since it looks like they moves the engines slightly so that only one of them will be directly on top of the diverter, assuming that they don't gimbal it out. So it's not.
That is something I've been wondering if they would just gimbal those center engines out. And then that basically leaves you with two of the outer 20 that are firing on it, I think.
All the outer 20 are straddling it. So one's on one side, one's on the other. And
Nice.
then the middle ring, it looks like they rotated it so that it does essentially the same thing. And then the middle three, two of them are in the right place, and the third one is sort of on top of it's cheated to one side, but it's directly on top of the ridge.
Okay. It's just it's crazy imagining the amount of volume of superheated exhaust gases that have to get redirected by this thing.
Like,
But
hopefully it's booster 18 will show up soon after, and they'll just go through all the fun tests.
yeah, I mean, no matter what, this is going to be way better than the flame deflector on Pad A. Like, not even close.
Well, and pretty much just unrolling the OLM and moving everything into this gantry structures, maintenance is going to be 10 times easier.
Yeah, for sure. Probably a lot less of it as well. A lot less heat entering this structure than what was entering the actual launch mount. So, yeah. This is really, really exciting. Is there anything else over here that we haven't really touched on? The commodities trench is looking like it's nearly finished.
It's nearly done. There's a ton of minutia, and if anybody's interested in minutia, should join us on our show and tells. We will dive deep into the weeds.
Yeah, this is pretty amazing. Astro Joe, I know we have some questions about the launch site, so let's go ahead and touch on those.
Yeah, sure. I want to thank a bunch of people for some more gifted memberships. So I got Bama in Italy sending 20 gifted memberships. Martin over several occasions gifting 9. Callistia Lee gifting 10 more. Drew Nar gifting 5 more. Jake Winlow gifting 10. Andy Alder gifting 5. Indian Star with another 10. John H. paying it forward with another 5 as he received a membership. And Drew Nar gifting 5 more for a total. People were asking me. So Jen and I went through and tallied them all up for a total of 143 gifted memberships so far this live stream.
Wait, did Vix get one?
No. That was my next point in saying that out of 143 shots fired, every single one of them missed Vix. And Chad has been saying we're firing like we're shooting like stormtroopers because it's Star Wars Day. So may the 4th be with you all.
Yeah, I guess that's a better metaphor. I was going to say she's like Neo from the Matrix.
Exactly. All right. And then Phil says, congrats to all the new members. Vix, we will get you soon. All right. Questions regarding the tank farm from Dean Brillhart. Is that vent box going to be the new Pope stack?
I don't think that's a good way to compare it because, well, we don't know where the methane condenser goes or where it's at, which is what that Pope stack is basically from, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So we don't know where that is currently. This is all basically exhaust from, well, you have prime up. The only thing that's not like direct exhaust from the subcoolers are the prime up lines, which is basically like when they flood the system when they flood the system at the beginning of testing, all of those pipes are hot. So you're not hot, but well, I guess they're really hot compared to the liquid oxygen and nitrogen and methane, whatever. All of that starts boiling off. So like as it's like flowing from the tanks over to the pumps, the entire length of that it has to cool down, and in the time it's doing that, all of that gas is boiling off. So that comes into here. So like at the beginning of that propellant loading cycle, you'll see a still sizable cloud coming out of this, and then that will die off for a little bit, and they'll start opening up those pumps probably one by one. And I think in order to stop that same process from happening quite as violently inside of the booster, they kind of limit how quickly they load propellant like at the start. So they don't want it like basically boiling and like I don't know what the right way to do it. It's like splashing in the bottom of the tank. So they like start off loading kind of slow, and then once they reach a certain point, then they ramp up. So like you might see, I don't know, probably 1 or 2 pumps rolling at that point. So you'll get like a slightly larger stream, and then once they reach that full speed loading, then you'll have all of the other pumps joining into that. Plus the same thing happening on the methane side. And again, that's 10. Well, yeah, I guess this does matter. The 8, you have 8 methane pumps and 9 LOX pumps.
Yes.
So that's just faster flow rate through these heat exchangers, which means you're just going to have more gas generation. So yeah, massive vent coming from there. And I don't think we should call it the Pope stack, because that is the only part of this system, for the most part, that we haven't actually seen yet, is what the condenser.
Potentially behind one of the vertical tanks, there is a stack. It's hard to see. This derrick is in the way.
I need to go from the other angle.
Yeah. Yeah, the derrick is in the perfect spot to block it.
What? What am I doing?
There we go.
Up here?
Yeah, it's behind, right behind. You can't see it. It's that left tank. The would be about 11 o'clock if it was. Yeah, right about there. There's a vent stack.
Well, the actual condenser for the
It's a large gray one.
this one, yeah. So we'd probably expect to see something at least the size, if not slightly larger, and that has not shown up yet.
Yeah,
unless we're wrong and they're doing it in these.
they could do both in that, because the vertical ones are better for a higher liquid to gas flow ratio.
That makes sense. Cool. Next question.
All right, excellent. I got to thank a PayPal donation from Credence for fuel, O2, coffee, and Sunny Snacks. $50 PayPal donation. Thank you very much. Got a gifted membership from Jacqueline Jacks and a gifted membership from Alan C. for a total of $145 this stream. Along the same lines here, related to the last question, Cumulus Granitus, will they need a burn-off tower to safely vent the CH4 side of things?
Yeah, they don't do that. They recover everything, so there is very minimal methane venting happening. The only true methane vent, I think, happens on the booster. Yeah,
unless code mandates it, I don't expect a flare stack. Oh, right here between, you can see the stack right between the, yeah, it doesn't have the top on it, but that's the same as the other recondenser, that valve assembly where your hand is.
So maybe the tank is going to go in here somewhere?
Yeah, or they're going to use those tanks as recondensing.
Oh, yeah, I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, next question.
All right, Black Eagle, can we all agree that the launch mount may be replaceable, but that it will likely not be a quick nor easy process and will only be done if absolutely required?
I mean, that's kind of what I feel like that's kind of what I've assumed was the case from the start. Like, it's not necessarily by being quickly removable. That's like a week is quickly removable, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, versus the amount of time that it would take for you to actually perform the refurbishments that you're trying to do. Like that, it's much faster. You know what I mean? So like, even if it's just a week, that's really not that bad. And for the most part, it really comes down to, you know, how they decide to attach those the pipes that do go into the launch mount. So like the ones that go through the side of it, or through the base. The question is how they attach those, which could potentially be flex hoses, could potentially be, flanges, clamped flanges. I doubt they would use clamp. No, even if they're bolt-on flanges, like all of that can just be unbolted, and as long as they're not welded, you can quickly remove that stuff. So, yeah.
All right.
And again, by quickly, I mean at least a week.
Yeah, that works for me. I want to thank Felix11 for becoming a member, as well as sending a $5 super chat to just say, really enjoy these streams and discussions. Goes a long way to help understand what's going on. So thanks for that support, Felix. Appreciate that. And then Crayman comes in with a question. Could the openings between the OLM legs and the steel wall be for the steel wall expanding from the heat?
it wouldn't hurt, but it's a fairly short impulse of heat, so it's not going to have time to soak too far through the steel plates before the stack is gone. It's more of long-term static fire, or long static fires would be worse at heating it. And we'll leave it at that.
All right. I don't know the context of this question, but from You Don't Need to Know, why wouldn't they just remove those 4 pipes and replace them with wider pipes, maybe oblong, to match the height? Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch when that question came in or what section we were on.
It's 4 pipes on the flame deluge deflector face.
Oh yeah.
I imagine they didn't expect it to deform that much, and custom rolling an oblong pipe, because part of it is you want the surface to stay fairly uniform. So filling in the gap leaves the high part more or less the same. And they could probably drill some additional holes to cool that slight wider gap. But where it's primarily bad is at the bottom of the bucket, where most of the de-energizing has already happened. And so there's not as much energy to be dissipated at that by the time it gets down there. I mean, it's still a ridiculous amount, but
All right.
Bye.
Well, I got not a question from Keon, but just want to say thanks to y'all for these amazing images. I have one final question in my queue from Sites family. Well, I do have. Oh yeah, there's another question. Who's going to win the F1 later? I don't know. I don't pay attention to that stuff.
I'm actually about to watch that as soon as it comes on.
There you go.
I'm gonna say Piastri will probably win.
Tell me says the safety car at this rate.
Oh yeah, that definitely is gonna happen for sure.
And if not, Oscar.
Yeah.
All right, I've got one final question. Hypothetically, from the Sites family, where would the gantry / flame trench go for pad A?
Well, so all right, let me get the right angle for this. So now that I look back at the other one, I guess the trench actually only comes back like this far.
Right.
So I guess it can fit. The question is if they'll make a dedicated water deluge farm for this pad. Looking at it right now, I guess they're probably going to do that because they have perfect amount of space for that system over here. Yeah, but it'll be basically from right here, and then it'll probably end right around here-ish, right before that wall. So a lot of this stuff is going to have to move. Like, I highly doubt they're going to leave this here.
Definitely not.
Yeah, like
It's like everything has to move. Just about everything.
I mean, it will. If not, I'll have 39A esque where one side comes out flat and the other side has a large kick. So hitting that Highway 4 side would probably have a large kick too.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I feel like the wall needs to be taller still.
Yeah, I just want them to clear this out because they can get rid of Halsey awful. Yeah.
Cumulus stating in chat that it was discussed in show and tell that the pad A flame trench be northeast to southwest.
Mm,
Mm,
I
sure.
disagree.
Uh, why?
Probably team tower replacement.
Direction. Well, no, I don't think you could do what. I don't think you could do it this direction because then
You
you
couldn't
have to bring
stack.
your line. You have to bring your vehicles over here. That doesn't make sense. I'm pretty sure it'll go this direction.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
I mean, it's not impossible though.
Except moving it this way would definitely pose hazards to the bulk of the existing farm.
Yeah,
for
that's what I
sure.
was thinking.
Cool. Any last questions before we wrap the show up? Oh, we do have this roundabout. Some people like to see that, so they
Yeah, there you go.
appear to be
Yeah,
mostly
no,
done.
I'm clear.
Awesome. Well, definitely want to thank everybody in the chat who's been with us this whole show. 1,500 of y'all watching right now. If you have not hit that like button, we do try not to mention it too often, but I guess this is the first time I've mentioned it all stream. So if you guys can, on your way out, hit that like button for us. We'd really appreciate it. And, definitely, if you have some friends in the space Twitter world or wherever else, Discord, that you think would like this show or that haven't seen it yet, then make sure to share it with them. We definitely appreciate that. Also, definitely appreciate all of the donations, especially the war in the chat for trying to get Vix a gifted membership. All of that stuff definitely helps us as far as being able to fund these flyovers, especially, let's say the launch mount happens to move during the day, and for some reason Mauricio was able to actually pull that off, getting up in the air on short notice. Enables us to do stuff like that. So definitely appreciate all of that assistance. And again, anybody who was gifted a membership, make sure to take advantage of that and check out the access that you have to the flyover gallery photos. So you can check all that stuff out yourself. And like I said, these are just so much better quality than they have been in the past. So, you could probably spend hours just like looking at all of the small details. So make sure to check that out. And with that, I guess I will pass this off to Alex, and I will see you all next week. Or actually, it might not be next week. It'll probably be 2 weeks from now. But yeah.
Well, thanks you, Zach, again. Love being on the show with you and Todd. And you could spend more than hours staring at these photos. Don't ask how I know. But Todd, off to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Great day, always. Thank you all for the gifts for Vix. I can tell you from personal experience, she is a lovely person, and you guys couldn't have picked a better person for trying to get this gift to. So maybe next time, Vix. We all love you, and you guys all have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, indeed. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. Yep. Well, indeed, it is always a good time sharing the stream with you, Zach. We'll miss you for the next couple of weeks, but thanks, Steph, for producing, turning the knobs, and pushing the buttons. Done a good job today. Appreciate you. All the wonderful donators and gifted membershipers, thank you all. Thanks, Astrogen, for making sure that we got everybody scheduled and bringing the talent into the stream. And with that, I'll tell y'all, most engines cut off, hot staging confirmed. Love you, bye.